Hey, what's up? It's Isaac, and I have a special announcement. From March 13th to 15th, Queer Art for Care by Crush Collective is taking over Cologne. And it's not just an art event, it is an experience. Queer Art for Care is an interactive art space centered on care, solidarity, and complicity within queer communities. There will be workshops, installations, ballroom, a queer library, a pop up shop, and plenty of space to explore, experiment, connect, and just be. My audio installation, Chocolate, the Listening Space, will be debuting there. It's an intimate, immersive space designed for deep listening, a moment to slow down and experience sound in a different way. One thing I really love about this event is it's not just something you watch, it's something you step into. And the best part, entry is completely free. So mark your calendars for March 13th to 15th at Alte Feuerwache Köln. Come be a part of it. Come explore, come connect, and come say hi. I can't wait to see you there. As we travel through life and as the age begins to show on our faces, future remains a ghostly presence. Our addiction to time begins to feel limited. Our desires, our hopes, our dreams have more of a need to be fulfilled. We are legendary in design, yet does society actually recognize our glow? We are hopeful. We are worth it. We are the future. We are black. We are chocolate. I'm Isaac. My pronouns are they, them. And welcome to Chocolate the Podcast, where we talk all things blackness, all things queerness, overall, all things chocolatey. Raise your hand if you have never heard of Chocolate the Podcast before. Okay, well, y'all need to do some homework, okay, when you get home. Okay, yeah, so Chocolate the Podcast was birthed about maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I am from San Francisco, Bay Area, California, but I lived in Europe for about 8 years now. So I lived 3 years in the Czech Republic, I lived 2 years in Berlin, and I've been living in Cologne for 2 years. When I moved to Europe, I was faced with microaggressions. I encountered so many different things surrounding my blackness, but not only my blackness, my black queerness. So I was like, I need to talk about this because this is an issue. This is something that's been going on for a long time, and I feel like this conversation hasn't been talked enough about. So I partnered up with an online magazine called kink.cz. I wrote 3 articles. One was about Black queer oppression, the second one was about Black queer love, and the third one was about Black queer mental health. So therefore, my love for podcasts came, and I was like, I have to do a podcast. So that's how Chocolate the Podcast started. This month is Black History Month. Let's give it up for Black History Month, y'all. Black History Month is so important. It is not just February. It is not just the shortest month of the year. It is every day, okay? And a lot of times I feel as though February comes around and the topic of blackness comes up. We have a lot of events. We want to hear Black voices, particularly in February, but sometimes I feel like Black queer voices are silenced or not as strong at that moment. So I was thinking, what topic should I talk about for the live episode? And I thought about what is the future for Black queerness? We talk about the future of Blackness, but Particularly Black queerness, I feel like is always left to the side. I'm a writer, obviously, and I wrote a little poem or a free write that kind of sparked this topic. So I'm gonna read it for you guys, okay? Blackness is constant. Queerness leans forward, a horizon still unfolding. Together we become something elemental, a truth built from resilience and a legendary kind of realness. See, the world teaches us to sprint, to chase arrival, to worship the finish line, as if time were only valuable once it's gone. But what of the breath between steps? What of the now that holds us steady? Yes, of course, the future calls, a promise, a longing, a language not yet finished. But longing should never eclipse presence. Tomorrow does not erase today, it grows from it. So let us imagine futures that hold us and hold everyone, not a single story mistaken for the whole sky. Let us speak of the Black queer future out loud, not as a footnote, not as an exception, but as a necessary constellation. Because listeners, when Blackness dreams and queerness survives and expands, we are not waiting for permission to exist in what comes next. We are already building it right here in the sacred weight of now. So yes, the topic of today is what is the future for Black queerness? And we need to discuss these uncomfortable topics because frankly, not all Black queer people live to be older, and that's just the truth. Hey, what's up? On this special live version of Chocolate Talk, we have the amazing, sensational Via. Via is a media scholar, video essayist, and filmmaker in the making. She's currently doing her master's in media culture analysis, following a BA in language and communication science. Her work, both academic and creative, circle around film, culture, and identity. Right now, she's developing her first film, a meditation on loneliness. She's also deeply involved in community work as part of the Black and Queer NRW collective. If you missed the live podcast, do not worry. I'm so happy that we were able to capture such a beautiful conversation. It is so enlightening. It is so special, and it's so vital for the Black queer community to have these conversations, and I'm happy to share it with you guys.
Thank you for having me. My name is Via. It's short for Sylvia, but Via is fine. I use she, her pronouns, and I recently turned 30 years old last December.
So I always ask my guests, what does chocolate mean to you? So when we use this metaphor for chocolate of the Black community, the Black diaspora, what does chocolate mean to you?
So definitely positive emotions. There's also negative associations because that is always what I've been called in a very, not necessarily demeaning way, like it was like a backhanded compliment, a way of making me feel good, but also very much other, especially when you grow up, you just want to belong. Having that type of attention is also something that I associate with chocolate. But overall, it's sweet. It's something that has brought a lot of riches to the African continent, even though there's a gap between where it's actually from and how people consume it. It's both positive and negative.
Do you feel Black queerness is treated as a separate conversation from Black liberation? Oftentimes, I don't feel super included in those conversations. I used to feel rejected or feel weird that I felt weird about not seeing myself in those conversations. But do you think that we are included in the Black liberation conversation? And if so, why or why not?
Not necessarily included, but always kind of a part. And by that I mean the issue is not necessarily in the forefront, but it's very relational, because I feel like a lot of Black people, knowing what it's like to be marginalized, they subscribe to Black respectability politics, where it's like, I can't change anything about my Blackness, and some people think that queerness is a choice. So they're like, why do you have to make it more complicated for the rest of us by existing in a queer way? And that, of course, is also a product of white supremacy, where divide and conquer is very much real. So dividing any outgroup facilitates domination or subjugation.
Maybe Black queerness is seen as caricatures of human beings, not actually human beings, even within our Black community. So I think that that intersectionality, we constantly have to wear that on our sleeves and have to always fight for it and like defend it constantly. So I guess like in terms of that, if you could design a future where Black queer people thrive, and I put thrive in quotations, what would change first? Like if we think of culture, family, politics, and community spaces, do you think that there's something that needs to enact change first in order for the other ones to follow? Or what do you think is the first one to happen?
I would say community spaces and family. For me, that's, especially in the queer context, that is pretty much the same thing, because a lot of queer people have lost ties to their family and have chosen family, which is a community space. I think that's where the change needs to occur, because laws and policies always happen after the fact. You know, when there has been a shift, then politics follows because of societal pressure. Never in history has policy actually caused change in that regard. It was always after the fact. So I think that's where it needs to start, having conversations, listening to each other, defining what it means, or redefining or broadening what it means to be Black and to be queer, because you don't necessarily have to, or you're not necessarily queer just because you are sapphic or gay or something, you know. If you look at the etymology of queerness, it just means not adhering to an established idea. This queerness is always political, has a political component to it. And I feel like this is where it has to start, to really get that into people's minds. And also, for me, the fact that queerness is not so much part of this conversation about Black liberation is also a huge indicator that colonialism has not been sufficiently addressed. There's so much scholarly work done. OYA Müllem comes to mind, for example. She has this amazing book called Inventing Women, making sense of European gender discourse in the context of Africa, where, you know, colonialists brought gender ideals. Yes. And that's the reason why a lot of African people still hold them so closely, because white people brought them into their respective countries. So I feel like dismantling all of that, it has to lead to change. At least that's what I'm hoping for.
We talked about that you are a filmmaker and you are looking into that, and I'm so excited to be watching you on that journey and supporting you in any way that you need. Film, let's talk about film really quick. So are current films and media portrayals of Black queer life expanding our future, or do you think it's limiting it?
On the one hand, in order to portray something, or like to picture something, you necessarily exclude something else. You know, if you highlight something, something else cannot be highlighted. So if you think of any sort of representation, I always ask who has written that character, who's portraying it. Is that, I don't know, I was going to say authentic, but authenticity is a sham. It's not real. There is a lot of representation, yes, that is true, but we also live in capitalism. So if something works, if something is well received, people try to copy it. So you don't really get a broad perspective, you just get what works and what can be capitalized on. Because you can't untie that type of representation from capitalism, I would say there's only a very narrow way of portraying queer blackness as, the flamboyant, outgoing character, because that is what people expect. And even me working on my first project, I caught myself thinking, how can I make my characters more queer, like obviously more queer? Even though, I don't know, if I eat cereal in the morning, I do it in a queer way because I am queer, It doesn't have to be so over the top all the time, but of course I know that these images will be perceived by a gaze, whatever type of gaze that might be, and then I have to speak in codes and kind of make it palatable. Or at least that is in my mind, then I can try to subvert it, but that's still relational, because then I'm like, it still holds power over me, because if I want to do something different just to, stick it to the man, I'm still centering the man.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So I feel like without solving the issue of capitalism and the film industry, because it is an industry, the representation we get is never going to be as fulfilling and as broad as it could be. I think we kind of learned to just take the scraps, and be thankful for something, at least some visibility, which in turn might be the start of like a longer journey, or like playing a long game, because on the receptive end, having these types of images and seeing yourself in any way, in any queer black way, might help you imagine entering those spaces as well, be it the entertainment industry, or I don't know, being portrayed as like a lawyer, a doctor, or whatever, that might change the way you perceive yourself in society. So there is still a benefit of representation how it is right now.
Have you seen Pose, the show Pose? So when I first saw it, so being in the US, I was watching it as it was coming out, so I didn't see it like the Netflix where they released all the episodes. So I was watching it like as it was coming out. And at the time I felt some type of way, like I felt like, ooh, like this is amazing, like this is cool, like I'm being seen. But then as I watched it again, and then also realized that there was some drama behind the scenes on Pose, realizing who directed it. Do you have an opinion about Pose? I'm going back and forth with, was that actually a good show for us, being that oftentimes Black queer stories are in the past, always seen in the 80s and like in New York. Like I just feel like I've seen the same kinds of stories of Black queerness being told over and over and over again. What did you think about that show, and did you form any sort of opinion about it? I'm curious to know, your thoughts.
I did enjoy it. It wasn't my first contact with ballroom culture, but I know that for many people it was. Even if it's not ideal on the receptive end, it does create changes. It opens up conversations. It just, frankly, I personally am tired of seeing Black suffering or Black and queer suffering. So having these types of stories told over and over again, especially by white institutions, by white producing companies and whatnot, I think I'm just jaded.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that is a reality. So navigating it, the problem is not necessarily these types of stories, but only telling these types of stories.
Right.
I wish we had like a counterweight where the scales would be more even. Then I wouldn't mind so much.
Yeah.
Because then people would be able to engage in Black and queer life and culture and get a fuller picture instead of just always seeing us suffer.
Yes.
And then perceiving us as victims, which is not it's not helpful to anyone.
I didn't know how important it was as a Black queer person to fully embrace aging and not looking at it as a negative thing, and to understand that the history of Black queerness and being 31 and being who I am in this world and this society and like going out and doing exactly what I want to do is so powerful. And that's not something that I need to resent. That's not something that I need to hold back in any way. Are young Black people prepared for kind of navigating that emotional shift that happens when you get older?
Yes, I think so, because living in the terms of bell hooks, white supremacist, racist, capitalistic patriarchy, we always are the odd ones out as Black and queer people. So the resilience is just peak. Like I feel like we can basically tackle anything. So I feel like aging, that's just gonna be one other thing. But at the same time, seeing what it's like for my mother, for example, to get older, she's 70 now, and being dismissed on so many levels, like going to the doctor and not being perceived as worthy of getting treatment because, she's old, or being dismissed as a woman. And again, I mentioned that I turned 30 recently, and even though I was very much looking forward to my 30s, I'm happy to have made it so far. I've been struggling with mental health and everything. At the same time, I was kind of in my feelings about that. I was like, yeah, I'm getting older, I am a woman, and, starting to count gray hairs and wrinkles and everything.
Hairline receding.
Yeah. So I was in my feelings about that. I knew where it came from, and I could dismantle it in my mind, but it was still something that I was thinking about. The only way out is through, it's going to happen regardless, and I'm very much an it is what it is type of person, where I don't like dwelling on things that I can literally not change. But at the same time, I feel like when it comes to just aging in general, there's a lot of representation in terms of actual people that you know, or even just in media, that facilitate imagining what it's going to be like for you. And I personally do not know a single Black and queer elder here in Germany. So I don't know what that would look like, how they exist in the world.
I don't know a queer older person in my personal life either.
Yeah. So either they don't exist because they haven't made it that far, which would be so telling, very frustrating and hurtful. Of course, when talking about elderly queer people and Black and queer people, because we have been in Germany for centuries, we cannot not talk about the AIDS epidemic that also took many lives and stigmatized queerness and forced people to negate that side of their being. But at the same time, there's just this huge blank of what it can look like to be old and Black and queer. And if you do get that old, again, you have to put your lives into the hands of institutions like elderly homes, for example. And I feel like a lot of people might be forced to kind of go back into the closet because their queerness is not necessarily affirmed, like stigmatized or judged, but it's not something that is affirmed and celebrated, especially being old and queer and Black and having made it to that point. I'm talking, again, like I have this imagined person in my mind right now. If that person had made it this far, that is something that should be celebrated,
Absolutely.
And I feel like institutions, German institutions, white institutions are not built for that. So the question, if we are prepared for it, I don't think so, because society is not.
Wow, let that sink in, y'all. Cause when we talked about that the other day, I had like chills, cause understanding like I don't know of older Black queer people, and like that reality just like sunk. So after our conversation, it prompted me to write what I read earlier today, because that realization is so real, and I think that that was a potent understanding to live through it and be excited about the hairline going away, and be excited about being 31 and being proud of it, and wanting to have these conversations like we're having now, so that we do see older Black queer people, older queer people, older Black queer people. We talked about kind of the healthcare system, but yeah, what do you think needs to change in order for us to see ourselves in the future?
I would love to get in touch with older Black and queer folk, hear them out, to see what they might be needing, and to bridge the gap of being younger and queer and being older and queer. There's this divide or this fear of not being understood, as you mentioned as well, where or I can only speak for myself, but where I might fear that they won't understand issues that I'm facing, or like old queer folk being turdy, so like that fear of engaging in conversation, and then older people, of course, feeling like the younger generation is ungrateful because I've been out here fighting, and now you want to like police what I'm saying, you want to police everything. So I feel like there's this gap, and there needs to be a way to come together, to really openly discuss, approach it with grace, and hearing these people out, and hopefully finding a way to build systems that have longevity to them, in order to really affect societal change that we can also benefit from, because we are gonna grow old as well.
Well, we're going to change the pace up a little bit. We are going to have a little game right now. So with every guest, I play this game called Sweet and Sour. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to say like a random word, literally random. And you're gonna say if it's sweet, something that you like, something you're like, okay, this is cool, I like this. Or sour, something you despise it. Yeah, so you gotta pick sweet or sour. You ready? Okay, so the first one is bubblegum. Sweet or sour? Do you like bubblegum or do you hate bubblegum?
Sweet.
You like bubblegum? I hate bubblegum, you guys. Like, it makes me so nauseous. And I don't really like mint that much, so when I get like mint gum, I'm like, ugh. Okay, gardens. Sweet or sour?
Sweet. Definitely sweet. I have this idea of having like a self-sufficient type of garden, where I can just plant my own stuff and like really work the land.
Yes.
Coax it, but never force it to give more than it can offer. Yeah, just really that is a dream of mine, actually. I would love that.
Okay, clocks. Sweet or sour? Like watches.
Sour.
You don't like clocks?
No, I don't like having them on my wrist. I never had a watch, like a wristwatch. Maybe I should start paying more attention to watches, and I wouldn't be late all the time. But yeah, no, I don't know. I feel like time, and just the concept of time, is just very, it unnerves me. Like it causes anxiety and stuff. So maybe just go with the flow. So sour for me.
Do you believe in Black people time? Like, do you think that we're like? Well, no, we literally will be late to everything. I'm like, I don't know. I think it's because I was thinking about this the other day. I think we just value the now so much. Like, I'll tell you this, like when I'm listening to music or watching TV and like doing my makeup, oh, I am not looking at the clock. I'm like, I am not caring of time. I am just present. So yeah, I guess yeah, watches. I guess sour too. I don't like it. I don't like feeling pressure to be like on time, and then I get anxiety if I'm like also late. I guess that's the Black people time effect. Everyone, let's give it up for OYA Müllem. OYA Müllem is such an epic space. It's such a beautiful community space. They have amazing food, amazing drinks, and they are just the best. So one more time for OYA Müllem, y'all. So before the break, I told you guys to think about any questions that you would like to ask me. But I also have some amazing Instagram questions. So I asked Instagram at Chalk of the Podcast to ask me anything, random stuff. And let me tell you, anytime I ask Instagram or any social media to like ask me random stuff, oh my goodness, they deliver. And it's hilarious. And I want you guys to answer some of these questions too, because these are crazy. So I'll start with the Instagram questions. Okay, so the first one is cereal a soup?
Wow.
Yes.
Let that sink in really quick. Because when I saw that, I was like, whoa, 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 baby, whoa, whoa, whoa. Is cereal a soup? You guys think yes or no? Clap if you think yes. I mean, if you think about it, it's like a cold soup, right? yeah, exactly. I don't know. I'm gonna say a hard no, but thank you for thinking that way, like out of the box. But yeah, my mind was blown because I was like, yeah, I guess it is kind of soupy. Anyway, we got that question answered. So what's your favorite time of day to write? I say anything to do with creativity happens at night. I have a tattoo of a moon on my hand for that reason, because my creativity comes out at night. Like, if I'm writing a song, it happens at night. If I'm writing poetry, it happens at night. Anything creative just happens at night. So I don't know what that is. I have to maybe look into like astrology and stuff. Maybe there's like a reason for that, but yeah, my creativity sparks at night. Do you guys have any questions for moi? It could be anything.
Yeah, so obviously regarding the topic you talked about in your podcast, I was wondering, do you have any wishes for allies, how they can support you and queerness and blackness, future, present? Past is a little bit complicated right now, but yeah, do you have any wishes or suggestions?
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for asking that. I think listening. I think right now what I'm really seeking is active listening from people, from allies, from loved ones. Really truly listening to what exactly I'm trying to say. I feel like oftentimes when conflict happens or just deep reflective conversations happen, people already know their answer before like hearing me out. And so I would just ask to come into conversations with an open mind and being able to sit and listen a little bit, and then take a second, reflect, and maybe come back. I think also some conversations and some maybe difficult conversations don't have to always have a conclusion right then and there. I think it's okay to table things sometimes. In terms of active listening too, yeah, just listen to us, and we speak out loud how we want support, and you can follow suit. Yeah. Hey, what's up? I'm Isaac. If you're listening to Chocolate the Podcast and enjoying the vibe, let me put you onto something. I have a Patreon. One tier, one price, full access. On Patreon, you get early access to episodes plus exclusive content I don't post anywhere else. I'm talking extra podcast episodes, vlogs, cooking content, book clubs, random ideas that don't always fit the main podcast. So Patreon is where I experiment more, I get a little looser, and connect more directly with you. By joining, you're not just subscribing. You are directly supporting the podcast and letting me keep doing this consistently. So come on, it costs about what you would spend on a coffee, and trust me, this gives you way more brain power, reflection, and a little laughs than a latte ever will. You, yes you, join Patreon. Join Chocolate the Podcast on Patreon Unwrapped. Well, you guys, this is the end of Chocolate the Podcast Live. You guys, thank you so much. Yeah. I won't get emotional, but this is such a dream of mine. I always wanted to have a podcast, and I always wanted to do something live. And thank you guys so much for being in this space with me and allowing me to do this. This means so much. Make sure you like, rate, review, and subscribe to Chocolate the Podcast. You can look at the episode description if you're at home listening to this. We have all that information there. You can follow us on Instagram at Chocolate the Podcast for more up-to-date things. I also have a Patreon, a way to support me. Patreon is the best way, and it is popping on my Patreon, okay, y'all? I'm doing vlogs, book clubs, I'm doing cooking shows, it's all crazy stuff, and I'm having a blast. So in this time, it's super important that we spread love, Make sure you tell your loved ones you love them. I'm telling everybody with my love, with my voice, with my music, with my podcast, that love will heal everything, okay? So make sure you spread that love no matter what. This is Chocolate the Podcast. I'm Isaac, and we are signing out. Thank you, guys.